mystery at the Roosevelt Hotel downtown. I still remember him walking in. I was nervous, and see, my voice cracked when I said that. How nervous I was when he walked in the room, and this all-powerful guy who was living the lifestyle of a rock star without being a rock star came in there, and he sat me down and just exploded with these ideas. And I'm watching the light bulbs go off in your heads as I'm talking, like every 20 seconds. It was like ding, ding, ding. And, you know, I got so much knowledge, so much shit crammed in my head. And not only that, made, you know, a best friend for life. And it took me like 3 or 6 months just to even incorporate everything I learned in those few days. And you know, this guy changed my life. Hopefully it'll change your life too. Ladies and gentlemen, Mystery.
Gentlemen, I'm Mystery, and I am a pickup artist. I'm very proud to be one, believe it or not, because the pickup arts has been enriching my life for quite some time. You guys want to be pickup artists? You came to the right guy. I've got some knowledge in my head that I have to get from my head, from my motor response, into your motor response. And we're going to use whatever tools we can use to get that job done. We're going to use paper. You're going to take notes. I'd rather you take copious notes, take more notes than you need, and what you don't use, the parts that are already internalized, you can throw out. So grab your notebooks out. And I'm going to take the time now to teach you guys about two things in particular. One is, the reason why people get into the pickup arts has to be clearly defined, because the pickup arts is not going away from your life for quite some time, or at least you're not going to leave this art form for the next few years. You see, either you're on the left side of this river in AFC land, average frustrated chump land, or you're in on the other side of this river in pickup artistville, PUAville. Anywhere in between, you are going to drown. All right? You're in one or the other side, either side. You cannot be in both. There is no such thing, in my opinion, as a recovering average frustrated chump. You're either a pickup artist or an AFC. That's how I see this. Now, how long does it take to get the skills to reach what we call mastery? Well, Style, you've been at this game for quite some time. I'd say the first 6 months were just trial and error and getting it, you know, getting yourself acclimated, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd say about a year and a half in.
A year and a half to what I felt was mastery.
Yeah, year and a half to something resembling mastery, because mastery is such an elusive term. So we've come up with a way of defining it. It's called 5 for 5. If you can approach 5 sets, and all 5 sets, one by one, as you approach them, ultimately turn into relationships. That's mastery. So now you have a goal. The goal here is not to get the woman. If you try to get the woman, you will have a motivation that will be telegraphed. You will have motive. And when you have motive, that conveys that she has more value than you. In other words, just by having motive and accidentally conveying it, it lowers your value. Now, what is value? What exactly does that mean, value? Let's define it. We're going to define it right down to the basics of life, of the purpose of life. The purpose of life, are you ready for this? This is the big thought for the day. The purpose of life is to survive and replicate. That's it. You have 28,251 days to get that job done. That's the average lifespan of a human being, according to the U.S. Census Bureau 2002. Thank you, Cliff Clavin. With that in mind, survival and replication being everything you're here for, your mind has been designed, evolutionarily designed, to survive and replicate. Every behavior that you possess in your head assists you in survival and replication. All right? Now, of course, you're not the only one. Women as well, out there in the world, they too want to survive and replicate. You can improve your chances of survival and replication by aligning yourself with others who have survival and replication value for you. That's why we are pursuing women, because they have replication value. They don't have a lot of survival value. They have some. I don't hang out with my girlfriend to protect me, right? But you see, from her perspective, she too wants to survive and replicate. But her replication choices are much more vast than a male's, right, than mine. So I can provide her survival value. If I can somehow systematically within my set, from meeting her to having sex, that is my set. And there's a timeline. If sometime, several times throughout that courtship, I can demonstrate that I am, firstly, the leader of men. I need to demonstrate it. I need to either say it in a story. Several times I'll have to trigger this attraction mechanism. If I could do that, I'm well underway. If I can prove that I'm pre-selected by women, that's going to raise my value as well. And thirdly, if I can prove that I am the protector of my loved ones. If I can show those three characteristics, demonstrate them within my set somewhere, she's going to feel attracted to me. Now, why is that? Quite simply, we have a brain that is not designed for today's environment. Today's environment, I mean, sure, sky, trees, and rain, that's all the same as it was for our ancestors, thousands and thousands of years ago. But what's different now is we currently live in the midst of an unprecedented population explosion. There are currently on this planet 6.45 billion people on the planet. That's a lot of people. And just to give you a little glimpse of how quickly all these people just arrived, back in the 1750s, in Casanova's heyday, when Casanova was really riding high, 1750s, there were only 750 million people on the planet. Now there are 6.45 billion. Now, evolution is slow to change. We have not adapted to the new environment of a population explosion. Hell, in only 30 years from now, there's going to be over 10 billion people on this planet. That means during your sexual prime, for the next 30 years, we've got a hell of a lot more people coming. We've got billions and billions and billions of more human beings. Half of them are women. And every year, 18-year-olds who can't get into the clubs turn 19 and can. Or 21, right? Down here in Los Angeles. So the purpose in life is to survive and replicate. You can improve your chances by aligning with someone who has survival and replication value for you. A woman, too, is going to improve her chances of survival and replication if she can align with someone who has survival and replication value for her. That's the reason why when we walk by a bum, we don't stop and give them the quarter they're begging for. But if someone has 100 on them and they say, do you have a quarter for the phone? We'll easily give it. Isn't that strange? And give them the quarter they're begging for. But if someone has 100 on them and they say, do you have a quarter for the phone? We'll easily give it. Isn't that strange? Isn't that counterintuitive and yet true? That person, the one with the $100, is conveying that they have some form of value. If they have value, we will want to align with anyone with value. That's why you'll feel nervous when you meet a celebrity. Because you can legitimately improve your life if you were to align with somebody who has some sort of survival and replication value for others. Because you will be safe under the protection of that person as well. You see, everyone in this room needs to be a tribal leader. That's what women are attracted to, the tribal leader. They're evolutionarily designed to be attracted to the tribal leader. Imagine what it was like 40,000 years ago, and that's approximately, give or take, the epoch of time that our brain is calibrated best towards. Evolution is slow to change. It's never experienced this many people on the planet before, this social environment. It's never experienced it before because this many people never existed before today. Tomorrow there will be more people. Right? So 40,000 years ago, what did it look like? There were around maybe 50 to 150 people living in a small tribe. And can you imagine if that was it? That was your tribe. Leaving that tribe would compromise your survival and replication chances. You'd stick around because the next tribe around is going to, quite possibly be hostile. By the time you got there, do you know where they are? Do you know how far they are? We lived in these small communities for so long. All our emotional circuitry for survival and replication is calibrated to a 40,000-year-old tribal society. When you know that, you realize, wow, I'm an out-of-date machine. You're like VIC-20s. You are a machine. You're a biological machine, quite sophisticated, no doubt. But out of date nonetheless. So with that in mind, you can really appreciate how you are designed when you look at it from that perspective of living in a community of 150 people. Now, there are problems with living in a community of 150 people, for instance. What if you are talking to a girl within that community? Let's keep it simple for now. Let's say it's a small community of 50 people. Half of them are women. But how many of them are really viable mates? 3, maybe 4. I mean, the other women, they may be too young, children. They may be too old. They may be ugly, meaning that they don't have the right hip-to-waist ratio, facial symmetry, breast shape and size, all the characteristics that our brains are calibrated to look for in order to judge her legitimate replication value for us. That's why we go for young versus old, right? But that's also why we don't go for too young. That's why we don't go for asymmetrical. Because an asymmetrical woman, you know, her eyes lower than, you know, than her ears, that's going to compromise the her replication value for you. And your brain is calibrated. Your attraction circuitry is calibrated specifically to look for certain attributes that are usually physical in nature. But for women, it's very different. You see, we're after replication value, they're after survival value. Any dick will do for them, but not every dick is the same. Not every dick is going to protect her. And that's the third one on the 3 characteristics. The first is being the leader of men. The second is being pre-selected by women. That way, you know, a woman who is observing you can save the step of having to hang out with you for hours and hours if she recognizes that there are 3 or 4 girls around you at that moment. She can save the step. In fact, that saving the step concept is hardwired into women because they have been living in these small 50 to 150 people societies, up to 350 people on the big ones later on in life. They've been living in those societies for literally hundreds of thousands of years. The apes are still living that way. They have, you know, they have complex social hierarchies. So do we. And the third one, of course, is being the protector of loved ones. If you could systematically demonstrate those 3 characteristics, again, they are leader of men, pre-selected by women, protector of loved ones. If you can convey and systematically demonstrate those 3 characteristics, you will demonstrate that you're the tribal leader. A woman's brain is designed to align with the tribal leader of her social community. Why? Because it improves her chances of survival and replication dramatically. In fact, she doesn't even have to be with the tribal leader. She just has to hook up with one of the tribal leader's friends. If you were the friend of a celebrity, you too would reap rewards. I remember there was this one very beautiful girl. This is years and years and years ago, back when I had some, you know, sticking points here, there, and everywhere. Absolutely beautiful girl, and I was working her, and all she had on her mind, she was telling me about wanting to see Charlie Sheen at his, I think it was his birthday party, and she was invited to go. So she had no interest in me whatsoever. It appears she had the chance of being with someone with a higher value. Despite the fact that that man has, you know, is publicly known for having a reputation with women that includes hookers, that doesn't matter because he comes pre-selected by women. He has choice. Therefore, a woman can't help but be attracted to him. A few days later, I bumped into her and I asked her, so how'd it go? Did you get Charlie Sheen? She said, no, but I got one of his friends. And that was good enough for her. Isn't that crazy? So you don't have to be the tribal leader. You just have to be in the tribal leader's circle. Because if she is with anybody within that tribal leader's circle, she has the blanket protection, an umbrella of protection. Because that's the value that this community has, or this tribal leader group has. It isn't the tribal leader. That's not the value. The value is in the fact that he has alignments with all these other guys, so that if this girl has a problem in life, someone's, you know, chasing her, all it takes is for her to, you know, call out in her community, help, 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 and anyone within that leadership circle is going to protect her. That's what you can provide women. You can provide some sort of protection value. You can provide networking value, so she can get protection from your friends, from others. Important. And she can save the step of knowing all that if there are women already around you. So if you can systematically convey those three characteristics, you will be the tribal leader. And you have to be. Now, that doesn't mean you have to become president of America. We all have our own tribal leadership groups. We have our own little tribes. So if you have, for instance, I remember this one kid, a cool guy. I'll keep the name out of this. He was living with his parents, and he told me that, you know, the big problem was, how is he going to bring a girl back to mom's house? Right? The guy was 23 years old, and he couldn't bring a girl back, and that was the environment he was living in at that point. So I said to him, who's the tribal leader, your mom or you? At what point are you going to, you know, jump off your balcony, hang on it, and say, Mother, I'm going to kill myself unless you let me bring girls in because you are compromising my survival and replication chances? You have to be a tribal leader to your family as well. And you need to demonstrate that to every woman you meet. Fair enough? That's what value is. Value is just survival and replication value. That's what that really means. So when we talk about demonstrating higher value, we have a short name for it, for the, you know, when we're on the internet, for us computer geeks. It's DHVing. DHV, demonstrate higher value. What we're talking about is trigger those three mechanisms. Okay, those three attributes have to be demonstrated. So you have to trigger the attraction mechanism inside that woman's head. The first one, leader of men. How can you do it? There's one of two ways. One way is to say it within a story. That's what we call languaging. Now, of course, you could, you know, use languaging to your advantage if you don't have, you know, a group of men around you. But if you could demonstrate that you're the leader of men in front of a woman, just three people, three guys, three of your friends, and you're in what we call a lock-in position. I'll give you an example of a lock-in position. Let's say, for instance, I'm gaming a girl. I'm talking to her this way. She's the one who is locked in. I'm the one who's gaming her. If I take her hands and move her out, and then I can lean back like this, I'm now locked into the set. It looks like she's gaming me. You see? That's very valuable when you want to demonstrate to the rest of the room that you are pre-selected by women. And that's the second attribute that we need to demonstrate. Either you demonstrate it or you language it. And the way you language these things are through stories. Stories about how your ex-girlfriend was an exotic dancer and... Make sense? That's a DHV spike. That's a DHV spike. We want to embed lots of DHV spikes into our stories or demonstrate those three attributes systematically live in field. Fair? That's what DHVing means. We'll leave that. I'd like to talk about two things in particular. One is first-minute resistance and last-minute resistance. All right? First-minute resistance is something that you and I all have. That is the fear of the approach. And just so you know, alcohol is not an acceptable tool for handling approach anxiety. It handles the short term. Yes, you can approach, but unfortunately, it is going to lower your chances because women of particular beauty are so fucking socialized. They've met a lot of people. How many people? About 7,500 people by the time they're 23 years old. That's how many times they've been hit on. That many times. Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine? Like my last girlfriend, she was an exceptionally beautiful girl. And she would easily be hit on at least 5 times in a day. If she went to, gas her car up, she's going to get hit on. If she, is going to run into the Subway shop to grab us a couple sandwiches, she's going to get hit on. You add them all up. Let's say she did that, she only went out 4 days a week. That's 20 approaches 20 interactions she's had to accept in her life. She tries to minimize it by walking fast, wearing sunglasses, crossing her arms, pretending to be on her cell phone, because otherwise guys are going to stop her left, right, and center. Right? Now that's 20 approaches in a week. She's learned how to get rid of this barrage of bore. She's built what we call a bitch shield. She's not really a bitch. She's just a bitch to you. You see? She has, oh man, that's 1 week. That's 20 in a week. Right? 80 in a month. In 10 months, it's 800. So you go pull your calculator out and figure out how long it takes, or rather, how many sets a woman has experienced. How many interactions with being picked up she's experienced from the time she's, what, 17, 18 years old to 23? It's a lot of sets. She's very experienced. So when you go into your set the next time, you're going to have to disqualify yourself from being considered a potential suitor, first off, or she's going to bring up her protection shield, her bitch shield. She's just going to shut you down because she's going to presume you're like the next guy or the last guy simply because you're behaving that way if you don't disqualify yourself from becoming a potential suitor. If you come up and say hi, if I come up and say, hi, I'm Eric, she'll say, hey, that's my boyfriend's name. Done. That's a lockout. Or if you say, hey, I like your shoes. Where'd you get them? My boyfriend bought them for me. They'll bring up what we call the boyfriend objection. The boyfriend objection should not come up. In fact, my last girlfriend, it was a 14-month relationship. It turns out when I met her, everything was going very well. By false disqualifying myself, she can't disqualify me because I'm already disqualified. An example of that would be, too bad I'm gay or you'd be so my type. So now she knows you're not after her. Of course, you may not want to use that one if there are guys around. So another one you could use is, oh my God, you are such a little shit. You know why you and I will never get along? We're too similar. That's why. You wouldn't take my shit, I wouldn't take your shit. What fun's that? That's a nice way of disqualifying yourself. Now, it's a false disqualification, simply because, you know, later on you can still move forward. If you say, you know, too bad I'm gay or you'd be so my type, you can use that as a false disqualifier because later on in the set, well, what I use is my brother actually happens to be gay, so I tell them that, and I go off into a story about my brother. You know, and it shows that I'm not the gay one. My brother's the gay one. These are black nails, not pink. And now that I have disqualified myself at the beginning from being a potential suitor, and using that as a part of my algorithm, as a part of my game plan for every set, I'm going to go into the set. I'm not going to get along with one person. That's going to be the woman I'm interested in, my target. And I'm going to disqualify myself from being considered a potential suitor first. If you don't, she'll blow you out. If you don't, any of the men that are in her group are going to presume you're like the last guy and you're going after the hot target. So we need to disarm all those obstacles, and you can do that by disqualifying yourself in front of them as well. Now, there are two ways of throwing what we call a neg. A neg is a way of disqualifying yourself. You are such a little shit. Oh! That's a neg. It's a disqualifier. Because if you were after a girl, you wouldn't really be saying that. You know? Oh, wow, you're absolutely beautiful. Too bad you're not my type. It sets up a nice challenge. And it also makes all those guys that were in that group no longer feel your threat. Now, they will accept your presence. Now you can demonstrate higher value. You can't start hitting on her. You can't start giving indicators of interest or IOIs. You can't start kenoing, which is touching. You can't start grabbing her. Not until you get IOIs can you give IOIs. So here's the sequence in total, okay? You're going to open the set. You all know how to open the set. You've been doing that for the last couple days. You're going to use an indirect opener. Direct is where you walk up and you say, wow, you're absolutely beautiful. I wanted to find out if there's more to you than meets the eye. That is an example of a direct opener. Works great on singles. I use them to good health when the girl is a single. There's no man or women around her. She's all by herself. See, she doesn't have her friends to protect her. So she's going to be polite, just in case. So it's really kind of a shoddy way of entering the set, but you can recover from it. A much better way is to go in indirect. What that means is not telegraphing interest yet, first demonstrating higher value, then testing for indicators of interest before you start giving indicators of interest. We go in indirect. An indirect example would be, first impression, black nails. Okay, get this, I can only stay a second, I got my friends here. Some schmarmy looking woman in the elevator said to me today, "Are you a devil worshiper?" Can you fucking believe that? What did I say to her? Style was with me.
Oh, that one with the crazy big earrings?
Yeah. They were like these huge ass hoop earrings. They belonged done like, like a curtain rod or something. Oh, I said to her, "We're going down, aren't we?"
Yeah, we're going down, aren't we?
We're going down, aren't we? She just turned white.
Had her head, like, looking up the whole time.
She put her head in the corner like this, and that's why I remember the earrings, because they were clanging. We were looking at each other like, Jesus Christ, right? Yeah, she walks out like this. Awesome. I am not the devil. I'm the devil's helper. And cut. There's an opener. It's a way of initiating the chat. I can only stay a second. I got my friends here. That's a false time constraint, an FTC. Thanks to Style for contributing that to the knowledge base of pickup. And it's a nice way of conveying your personality characteristics very quickly.
And for ways there knows the story, she should be filling in that with you. I've never seen that scene in my life.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Your wing should be like chiming in like the most interesting thing that happened.
That's exactly it. And it makes it that much more believable.
Right. And the more energy and interaction you can get going amongst you, the more infectious it is for them.
Exactly. That's exactly the case. That's an indirect opener. Following that, I need to disqualify myself, or somewhere in there, I should pepper in a neg, where you are telling the story to someone, you're looking like you're about to take off, false time constraining yourself, and then throw your neg at her and keep talking. It's called a throw and go. If you throw a neg at your target, like, you are such a little shit, if you wait for the response will be, you're an asshole. She's going to respond to your negging by throwing you a neg. No, we don't want that to happen. I just want to throw my neg and keep talking. So I'm going to throw and go. I'm going to neg and DHV. DHVing, if you can do it by having people with you, right? Having women with you, or being the leader of men, right? Or if there is some slim way of showing your protection of loved ones algorithm in your head. If there's a way of doing that through some sort of drama that takes place, that's very rare, of course, in field, but it can happen. If you save a woman from distress, all the other women are going to want you. All right? If you can do those three things, you're gold. Once again, you're going to open, add your false time constraint, neg to disqualify yourself from being a potential suitor. That'll disarm all the obstacles. Then start DHVing. Your DHV material has to be chock full of DHV spikes. Those three things. Then you start looking for indicators of interest. How long does this take? From meeting to her touching you and you're saying, okay, hands off, this shit ain't for free. What, are we going to start a tab here? You must be rich. Can you cook? No? All right, you're losing me. To get to that point where she is chasing you now because you're pushing her off, and for her to chase you and give you indicators of interest, it's about 3 to 5 minutes from meeting to that point. It shouldn't take more than 3 to 5 minutes. By the third minute, you should already be locking yourself into the set. 2 reasons to lock yourself into a set with women. One is, of course, you don't want to look like you're gaming them. It'll lower your value for all the other people in the room. Right? It's a vulnerable position when you're gaming a girl. Because you're gaming a girl means they have value, and you're trying to align with them in order to get that value for yourself. All it states is your value is lower. Right? It's a vulnerable position when you're gaming a girl. Because you're gaming a girl means they have value, and you're trying to align with them in order to get that value for yourself. All it states is your value is lower. So I need to lock myself in, lean up against the bar or the wall, and have the girls surrounding me. That way, any other woman who sees me in this room, when they see me, I've got the pre-selection switch already triggered without having to throw in a DHV spiked routine. Make sense? If you can't do it, you'll have to do a routine. You have to throw that in. So now you have a structure. A rudimentary structure that'll get you up to speed. That's all you're going to need. Now, at the beginning of all this, I was talking about the difference between an average frustrated chump and a pickup artist. Either you're one or the other. You can't be both. You can't be neither. You have to choose one. If you're going to choose Venusian arts, the Venusian arts being very similar to the martial arts. Martial is god of war. Venusian, god of love. It's not the pickup arts, it's the Venusian arts. Pickup goes from meet to phone number. Venusian goes from meet to break up. The entire relationship cycle. As a Venusian artist, there's a certain type of lifestyle. If you're not currently living the lifestyle, first you have to define what the lifestyle is that you want. What is good? You want to be good at the game. Do you know what good looks like? Do you have any clue what good represents to you? I'm going to take the time now to ask you that question personally. What is good to you? What is mastery, in your opinion? What does mastery of the Venusian arts look like? You came here for a reason. I'm sure you didn't come here for mastery. You came here for proficiency. Right. But that's neither AFC or PUA. That's somewhere in the middle, in the water where you drown. You know, with the martial arts, I know just enough martial arts to get myself seriously hurt, because I'm willing to step up, but I don't have all these little gambits and tools and strategies internalized and automated as I do with the Venusian arts.
Mastering Venusian arts is be able to be selective about the women in your life, the people in your life.
What does it look like, though? You're in field. You're in field. You were in field last night, man. You're rocking the club. There you are. There are several women there. What does mastery look like?
Like a presence, like a good presence, where the person in the club or the people notice. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really hard to explain. It's kind of profound.
We have to define it, though, so you can appreciate the difficulty right now. Okay, it's something that you now have to sit down and think. What is mastery? What does it look like? What about you? We're gonna form it as we go around the room here.
Me, that's being able to approach and attract a woman without any AFCs around, even knowing what's happening. You know, without them even realize what's happening as it's happening. It's like sleight of hand. It's like.
So we're leading to somewhere. It's getting the girl with consistency.
Yeah.
Right? It's getting the girl even if she's surrounded by friends. In fact, you're going to have to presume she's surrounded by her friends, simply because women of beauty are very rarely found alone. They're usually in groups. They're going to align with other people for protection.
In a way that her guy friends can't even see they can see what's happening, but they can't see how it's happening, because they've never seen anything like that before, or they've never done anything like that before.
How about disarming the entire peer group and befriending them so that the positive peer review will be a DHV for your target?
We saw Ross Jeffries doing just that Friday when he approached like 3 people, 2 women and a man. One was a cousin. Anyway, yeah.
Very nice. When you own a group,
he had them all entertained. I mean,
when you lead the group, right? When you're the leader of men, the women follow.
Yeah. In fact, one of them followed him.
Very nice.
Followed him out.
Good for him.
I mean, before they were about to leave, she was talking to him. Gave phone number. I mean.
Nice. Yeah. Very good. What is it for you, mastery?
For me, it's learning how to get to like a win-win situation for both me and the woman. I've learned the skills, the social skills, all those kind of skills to make her life better and to really appreciate me, so that she wants to return that to me. And it keeps us together by that way, because we both want to do things for each other, and not because we're afraid that if we cut this off, we won't find somebody else, or it gives,
So we all have different views right now, is what we're getting to. Everyone has a different view of what mastery is. We all have to get on the same page for what mastery is, so we can all align to getting that. We're not after the woman, because again, if you're after the woman, you're going to telegraph interest, lowering your value. This is why I had to backpedal and tell you all about what SNR value is and how the attraction circuit in a woman is aligned to your legitimate SNR value, your survival and replication value for it. Right? Here's what mastery is to me. Every set that you open, you get the fucking girl. That's it. And how do you know it works? 5 for 5. The very next approach, you should get the girl. If you don't get the girl, you fucked up. And then the girl after that, if you don't get her, you fucked up twice. There are some guys who go out and they'll do 30 approaches in a night. They go home. They fucked up 30 times. There's going to have to come a time when you start succeeding. Maybe 1 in 10. 1 in 10 is great, by the way. Ultimately, you want to pull it all the way down to 1-on-1, a 1-to-1, or what we actually call a 5 for 5. I love that little number. You can write it on your chest. 5 for 5. 5 sets, right? Or 5 girlfriends for 5 sets. That's what we're after. Can you imagine if you had that skill set, 5 for 5? If any woman that you walked up to, pretty much any woman, you could have. Now, I've lucked out on more than one occasion by hitting 5 for 5. I remember doing this in Las Vegas during a boot camp, day 1, with an interviewer for Marie Claire UK. She was following along. And so obviously I've got some, legitimate pressure. I've got several students with me. They want to see, mystery in action now. Well, here we are in Vegas. We enter into the room. This journalist woman was with us, and she, of course, her arms are crossed, going, "All right, show me the goods." And I did 5 sets, 5 makeouts, and one of them was married. That's mastery. It is achievable. It's almost like a superpower, isn't it? Imagine having this superpower. That's what being a Venusian artist is all about. If you're only halfway there, you don't get anything still. But once you can get a girl, because of all the series of steps, the 30 or so possible mistakes you can make have been thwarted, and you get the girl once, you can do it again and again and again. Now the truth is, come on, who's a virgin here? Any of you? You've all had sex? So you've all succeeded. I'm sure you've had sex more than once. So we're not talking about anything new here. You've already done these steps. You obviously succeeded. But what happens is you haven't necessarily consciously identified what those steps are, and then come up with algorithms or procedures or methods for handling those potential hurdles. You can flub from meat to sex. There's a good 30 little areas that you can screw up in. An example is getting the phone number. You can have a perfectly good, dynamic, conversation with this beautiful woman and her friends, and then you go for the number and you flub it. You lose the set. It's almost like playing a video game. There's 9 levels, and there's no save feature. So sure, you can open a lot. Level 1, open, open, open. But level 2, attraction, which is DHVing and negging at the same time. So you're permitted to DHV. That's the second level. If you screw up there, well, the next girl, you can't start at level 2 and move on to level 3. You got to start at level 1 again. What if you get all the way to level 9, sex, but you get thwarted because of last-minute resistance? You lose the set, and guess what? You lost the girl. You got to start from scratch. It's a very painful situation, but you've succeeded in every single one of these phases. Obviously, you've succeeded, or you would still be virgins. All we have to do now is define what those phases are, come up with good gambits to fill in that structure, and then go out into the field systematically. Go out 4 nights a week. Stay in 3 nights a week, but go out more than you're staying in. And only stay in really if you're with women. Otherwise, go out 7 nights a week. Even if it's only for an hour or two, that's fine. Even if it's only for an hour or two, that's fine. Just get out of the house, because, it's abnormal to stay home. A lot of people don't know that. People think, well, I'm home. It's weird to go out. Well, when you're living amongst, 6.45 billion people, it's quite reasonable to think that it's not weird to go out every night. That is the lifestyle change that is necessary. Getting you out of the house. If you can do that, you're well underway. And if you can't get out of the house, get a friend who's in this game. A wing.